In Paddington, very proud of my heritage down there on the Warwick Estate. If any of you know it, it's a legendary place.
Talk there, yeah.
But it's great to be here, and I want to thank Dr. Riaz and the Mosque authorities for having us, because this is where we need to be. The whole point of Enough is Enough is that we need to revitalise and recreate our working class movement with working class values, a working class identity, and working class outcomes. And when I grew up around here, in this area, Willesden, Kilburn, Cricklewood, Paddington, this area around here was very strongly identified with Irish backgrounds, Afro-Caribbeans, people like that, who have often moved on. The working class changes over time. But that doesn't mean that our values have to change. We have to make sure that we are reconnecting with the new people that live in our working class communities. And that's why we need to be in the mosques, we need to be in the good warras, we need to be in the town halls, we need to be in what used to be called and are still called the working men's clubs. Wherever working people are, if they want to use a mosque or a community centre or a good warra, whatever it is, we need to be there with them, whether we're secular people, whether we're ideological people, or whether we're people that just want to get the job done for working people. We have to rebuild that. We have to come out of our silos where we might be comfortable, and we have to get on with real working class politics and working class organisation of everybody in our community, because that's when we're strong and that's when we will win. So that's what our job is, and that's what Enough is Enough is about. I've got a whole series of microphones I'm trying to navigate here without rushing with my jacket. So this dispute, this one that you've got behind you, is still the same: jobs, pay and conditions. And we've heard from the CWU about conditions, and you're hearing it from every group of workers now. The organised workers are trying to defend what we won sometimes decades ago through years and years of struggle, years and years of our forebears fighting for these conditions, whether it's in the NHS, whether it's in the Royal Mail, whether it's on the railway, in our universities. In some ways, we used to take for granted what we had, and it was given down to us by years of struggle, people before the Second World War fighting for these conditions, when workers had no conditions, let's remember, fighting for the welfare state that would back up the conditions that you'd won in the workplace and won through contract, collective bargaining with your employer. And this government and the ruling class of this country is intent on ripping it out of our hands and pretending that there's no right to conditions. And I've got to ask everyone, what's wrong with sick pay? What's wrong with a full year of sick pay for people that have given their lives to our services, given their lives to our communities? What's wrong with a proper set of holidays that you can above the statutory minimum? What's wrong with decent pay bands and salaries for our people so that they can earn a living, so that they're not living on benefits while working? And it's a disgrace that the last Labour government left us with a legacy where working people, full-time working people, are expected to pick up benefits. We should never have people on benefits that have got full-time work. Every worker should be paid the full value of their labour. And if we're subsidising rip-off employers, outsource contractors, and I'd love to hear the day when every Labour council in this country commits itself to bringing all of that work back in-house. That's when we'll start to see equality in this country. And that's got to be in the next Labour manifesto as far as I'm concerned. A square deal for workers means that in the NHS, in the education services, whether it's schools, universities, in transport, in care, wherever there is a service for our people, that work should be done by in-house staff on the same conditions as everyone else. And let's be clear about this. The polite word for it is outsourcing. They call it, I'm outsourcing you, chasing efficiency. That is a class action by the ruling class to push down wages and conditions. In my opinion, and I've seen it on our railway, where I have to admit our union didn't do enough in the 90s when we were on the back foot to stop exploitation. The cleaners the caterers and the subcontractors. You haven't got to be a social scientist in this town and the other big cities to see who's getting ripped off. It's the people with the darker skin, the people with the migrants to this country are subject to these ISS, Mighty, Sodexo, Serco. These are mega multi-billion pound companies, and they're ripping off our working class communities, and they're especially ripping off black, Asian, new migrants to the country, and they're trying to split us and divide us, and we should never have let that happen. And the quicker we repair it, the better. And there is a danger, and we've recognised it in my union, and all unions have got to recognise this. The in-house staff who might be left behind on good conditions, and the outsourced staff, the people who've got to step around at work in separate mess rooms, often separate canteens, separate contracts of employment. That's got to end, and we've got to convince our people right across this country that every worker has the same rights as every other worker and should be on the same set of terms and conditions. And that's whether you've been here as a migrant for a long time with your family, or whether you're a new migrant seeking to come into the country, whether it be on a boat or whether it's on an airplane or whatever. Nobody is illegal. Nobody should be discriminated against. And the working class movement stands for every worker, no matter what their background. Now, our dispute is a defensive dispute. We're stopping them ripping us off. And you'll see the press saying it's greedy trade union barons. Apparently I'm the baron of Paddington. I'm settled for being a marquis or something like that. I'm just settled with being a baron. We are not barons. Our trade union movement is the hope of the people of this country. I'm telling you that. Because if the politicians can't do it for us, we're going to have to do it ourselves. And they are trying to rip us off, and they're trying to make an example of my union because they want to push us down, and they'll show to every other worker that's what's going to happen to you when you stand up. And they believed at the start of this year, when they got ready for this dispute, that we'd be out for a couple of days, there'd be some nasty skinhead with a London accent trying to front up a dispute that was completely unpopular and would be condemned at every turn. Well, we said it at the time. We don't care what the commentators think. We don't care what the politicians think. We don't care what the media thinks. We care what our people think. Our people are ready to strike, and we will strike until we get the settlement we need. So we're coming back with a reballot on Tuesday, these 15 companies in this dispute. Network Rail with 20,000 plus people, and the train operating companies. I'm confident we're going to win every single one of those ballots, and we'll be going back to that table with a refreshed mandate. And if we don't get an agreement, we will strike and strike again until we get one that we're satisfied with. Right across the country. If you've seen what's happened in Liverpool in the last day with the dockers up there, with their tremendous heritage and the tremendous support from the city, the culture, working class culture of those Scousers. It's great to see the whole community behind them. They're determined to win, and they've won it today, between 12 and 15% and 18% pay rises. And that is a message for us all. Don't be ashamed or afraid to ask for more money. Don't be ashamed to ask for improved conditions or to defend your conditions. That is exactly what we need. If we don't defend them, they will make increased profits, and we will be down the bottom, and the rich man will be on top. And that's got to change. So let's make this movement a real movement of workers. And it goes right from the Acorn people who are looking to stop the rip-off of housing. It goes into the climate change activists and the energy activists. And let's be absolutely clear about this. Energy and energy distribution, the same as wealth distribution, is a class issue. And it's not just a class issue here. It's a class issue across the globe. Because when we see the tragedy in Pakistan last month, and we see the tragedies that will affect all of the developing world, as we were told to call it.
Exactly.
That is class politics on a global scale. The people that had no say in the pollution and the desecration of this planet are the people that are going to suffer first.
Yeah.
And wealth distribution in our society means that the rich have got to pay up. And wealth distribution across our globe means that us in the first world economy, as they call it, we're going to have to pay up to help those people as well, and we should be proud and happy to do it as we go forward. So let's remake our working class movement. I've got these notes here, I'll never look at them anyway. Start ranting. Let's remake our working class communities, and let's remake our working class culture. I went up to a town up in Darlington, near Darlington, the place where the railway was born, right? Where our railway was born, that went Tory for the first time in the last election. And I made a speech up there that was targeted at the Labour Party and targeted at some of these professional politicians we've got in our society. People in those communities have lost their identity. They lost their industries. They lost their terms and conditions. They lost hope, and many of them have become subject to addiction. They've been subject to exploitation because the work they get is 0 hours, outsourced, rubbish, low-quality work. Many of those people have lost hope. But what they will get is more hope brought back to them if we resurrect our movement through the trade unions. And the trade unions have got to be in every community. And our union is not affiliated to Labour. I don't think the UCU is affiliated. Many of them aren't. But that doesn't mean we're not political. We're going to be more political than we've ever been. We're going to plant the trade union working class flag in every community in our country. And we're going to take militant industrial action on behalf of all of our people. And we're going to make those politicians come to us. Starmer, whatever her name is, Rachel Reeves, all these Stepford type people who would just sit there waiting for the opportunity to get the next promotion, they're going to have to come to class politics, and we're going to make them bring forward a manifesto that if it's a one-word manifesto, it will do, and that word is redistribution. Redistribution of power and democracy in our country. And if you look what they're doing with the police bill, you look what they're doing with the minimum service level agreement, minimum service level laws that they're trying to bring in. They're afraid of the trade unions. They're more afraid of us than they are the politicians. They want to disable us. They want to shackle us. They want to tie us up and throw us in the cellar. We're not going to let that happen. And we're going to make Starmer and Reeves and anyone else that stands as a working class politician or a representative of the working class say, we're going to repeal that law, we're going to repeal all of the anti-trade union laws, and we're going to get a new deal for workers that's put forward by the trade unions. So let it ring out from this mosque, and let it ring out from every trade union and every working class community. We're going to rebuild, we're going to get every worker in a union. We're going to make all those unions campaigning. And if you're a trade unionist, make your branch, make your region, make your full-time officers sit up and start taking some action on our behalf. There's no point in sitting on the sidelines when the rest of us are in struggle. So let's reinvigorate our movement, give our people some hope in their hearts, give them the arguments in their head, and get them on the streets, and let's win for our people and change our country for the better. Thanks very much.